Climate change has granted us access to many things, some of which have been hidden in ice and permafrost for thousands, if not millions, of years. Numerous experts have discovered artifacts that have expanded our knowledge of prehistoric animals and plants that existed long before humans appeared on Earth. The thick ice found in regions such as Antarctica can preserve moments in time, providing us with a detailed picture of the Earth's condition many years ago. Some of the things we have discovered over these years leave us puzzled, while others shed new light on the mysteries that have baffled us for millennia. If you could travel to any moment in history, when and why would you go? Let us know in the comments below. In Siberia, a group of researchers came across a puppy that had been preserved in ice for at least 18,000 years. At first, the puppy puzzled the scientists, as they had no idea what kind of dog it was. They studied the puppy for a considerable amount of time before attempting to extract DNA for further analysis. They expected the dog to be around 2 months old when it died, as it still had many milk teeth. Eventually, they managed to extract a usable DNA chain from the puppy's ribs. When they analyzed the DNA, they were astonished by what they discovered. For many years, scientists had been trying to determine at what point ordinary domestic dogs diverged from their wolf ancestors. Upon examining the DNA of this puppy, they found characteristics of both wolves and dogs, suggesting that this puppy could be the so-called missing link that scientists had been searching for all these years. The dog was named Doga, and researchers will always be grateful that, although the puppy perished due to a landslide, its spirit lived on for almost 20,000 years and helped unravel one of the greatest mysteries of our time. A baby woolly rhinoceros, this discovery, also in Siberia, may have the potential to have a much greater impact on life than the puppy mentioned a minute ago. Near Yakutia in Siberia, local residents stumbled upon the remains of a woolly rhinoceros trapped in a thick layer of ice in the permafrost since the last ice age. We know that rhinoceroses inhabited this area between 50 and 20,000 years ago, but this animal was so well preserved that it seemed as if the rhinoceros had died just a few decades ago. In fact, a large portion of its internal organs was still intact. Researchers estimate that the rhinoceros was probably about 3 years old when it died after getting stuck in a swamp. Its horn was also intact, but it had many scratches indicating that it likely used its horn to search for food. What's truly remarkable about this animal is that researchers can now finally gain access to its DNA, which will allow them to potentially resurrect this once-lost species. The rhinoceros's body has been sent to the laboratory for further analysis. Researchers are hopeful that the animal's organs will contain enough viable tissue to learn about how these creatures lived many years ago and potentially use the DNA to bring this species back to life, so that woolly rhinoceroses can roam the wild once again, approximately 50,000 years after their extinction. In northern Siberia, an 11-year-old boy was walking near a nearby river when he suddenly caught a terrible smell that seemed to surround him no matter which way he turned. He searched for the source of the odor and found something protruding from the ground. As he approached closer, he began to notice what seemed like a pair of hooves sticking out of the mud, but they didn't look like they belonged to a moose or a deer, as he had seen many times before. Instead, he soon realized that they belonged to a mummified mammoth, which had been lying deep under the ice for over 10,000 years. The animal had been preserved in the ice for many years, but now, as the ice began to melt, it was exposed to the elements and started to decompose. Researchers arrived at the scene to excavate the mammoth's remains and attempt to preserve it. It was the best preserved specimen discovered since 1901. Scientists examining the body estimate that the mammoth was approximately 16 years old. The mammoth was relatively small for its age and appeared to have lost one eye, one ear, and both tusks, likely from being hunted by Arctic predators during one summer. Despite the passage of time, these parts managed to remain intact, buried deep under the ice. An American moose, a natural science teacher, took a trip to one of the most remote regions of Alaska. As he was passing by his hometown, he stumbled upon something he never expected to find. 2 moose antlers were sticking out from under the ground, intertwined in a frozen grip that had held them together for many years. When he approached the animals, he noticed that they had clearly been engaged in a fight before becoming trapped in the ice and perishing. One of the moose was mortally wounded and had died, but the antlers of the other moose had become entangled with those of the deceased moose, sealing the fate of both. As harsh weather set in, both animals sank into a frozen lake where they remained for several years. We don't know exactly how long the animals remained in this position, but Brad and a few of his friends freed the animals from the ice and took their antlers as trophies. The bodies of the moose were left behind so that other animals could scavenge them. An aircraft squadron was lost. On July 15, 1942, a squadron of the U.S. Air Force flew along the so-called Snowball route over Greenland. They were heading to Great Britain when one of the planes encountered a severe blizzard. The squadron consisted of 2 B-17 bombers and 6 P-38 escort fighters. They were part of the Allied forces destined for Normandy to counter Nazi Germany. Materials and weapons were being transported via a secret trade route, and the storm forced the military aircraft to make an emergency landing, which was completely unexpected. However, they crashed into a glacier. The crew of 25 managed to survive the crash and spent 9 days wandering in the cold weather in search of the nearest base. The planes were left behind and ultimately remained buried under a thick layer of ice. They remained undiscovered until 1992 when the aircraft was found buried more than 100 meters beneath the thick ice. One of the P-38 fighters was freed from the ice with the help of a series of hot plates that helped melt the thick ice. Now, a California businessman has set himself the task of freeing the remaining planes and bringing them back to America to restore their former glory. After that, he will take them on a world tour as part of an air show. Victims of Mount Everest. Mount Everest is widely known as the tallest mountain on Earth. Despite the obvious danger surrounding this mountain, hundreds of people venture to explore its icy surface each year, attempting to secure their place among the few who have successfully reached the summit. Over the years, more than 300 climbers have lost their lives in their attempts to conquer the mountain. Since the first oxygen-less ascent in 1978, Mount Everest has become a major tourist attraction. However, nearly all summit expeditions have failed, and many individuals have perished or been left permanently disabled. The problem lies in the fact that if someone dies during an ascent of Everest, there is no possibility to retrieve their body back to the ground. This means that the body remains on the mountain, preserved in ice for many years. Eventually, as the ice melts, the remains are exposed again, serving as markers for future climbers. One of the most well-known cases involved a 28-year-old soldier who was part of an Indian expedition in 1996. He lost contact with his group during their ascent, and no further information was ever heard about him. Over time, many bodies resurface, serving as a chilling reminder of what can happen if even a single wrong step is taken on this treacherous path. Children of the Incas were sacrificed. The Incas ruled over much of South America before Spanish conquistadors destroyed their empire at some point during the 16th century. Today, all that remains of the Inca people are their magnificent temples and cities, which have helped us gain a better understanding of their way of life many years ago. The Inca religion revolved around cruel gods who demanded human sacrifices to appease them and bring happiness. In modern times, we know that many such religions have been disproven. However, during that era, the Inca people only knew what they had been taught for hundreds of years. Offering sacrifices to the gods was considered a great honor, and archaeologists have now discovered mummies that remain from some of these sacrificial rituals. The oldest of these mummies was 13 years old, and through the analysis of their hair, scientists have been able to study their dietary habits in their final year of life, revealing that children were given significant amounts of alcohol and coca leaves. It is believed that these substances served as a bridge to the gods, helping the children reach the spiritual realm. The famous glacier mummy. In the summer of 1991, Europe experienced unusually hot weather, causing entire glaciers in the Alps to melt, and many areas that had been covered in ice for thousands of years began to thaw. Within one of these large ice masses, a mummy was discovered, believed to be around 5,300 years old. The mummy had naturally desiccated through a process called sublimation, providing us with a remarkable glimpse into the lives of people from that time. This discovery has led to numerous scientific breakthroughs over the years, offering insights into the past. It is believed that the mummy was a 45-year-old man who died from a blow to the head. Remarkably, his body was adorned with 61 tattoos, which was unique for that time. The tattoos were created by applying a layer of charcoal to cuts on the skin, and when the wounds healed, the tattoo marks remained. The late blooming, near the Kolyma River in Siberia, researchers have discovered a series of extinct fruits that were likely left by squirrels thousands of years ago. It is believed that the squirrels stored these fruits during the winter months, hoping to return and eat them later. However, the formation of permafrost made it impossible for them to do so. Researchers were able to collect the fruits and use them to create new plants that had not been seen on Earth for over 30,000 years. It was found that these fruits contained an incredibly high amount of sugar, which aided the survival of the seeds for such a long time while hidden deep within the ice. The threat of melting ice brings not only astonishing discoveries for researchers but also deadly consequences. We know that diseases have plagued humanity for many years, and it is possible that some of those pathogens, which were trapped in the icy shell, can now be released into the atmosphere. A striking example of this is the outbreak of Siberian anthrax that occurred in 2016. It was believed that the infectious agent had been completely eradicated, but as the ice started to melt, the chemical substance resurfaced. An infected reindeer carcass contaminated the local water supply, leading to the spread of the disease. In addition to that, scientists have discovered traces of the Spanish flu and smallpox in the permafrost. NASA has also managed to revive bacteria that existed over 32,000 years ago, and some of these bacteria have shown resistance to more than 70% of known antibiotics worldwide. These findings highlight the potential risks associated with the release of ancient pathogens due to melting ice. Proper precautions and research are crucial to understanding and mitigating these threats to human and environmental health. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on new videos.